A lot of questions.
Alright, so Jack, what do you like about video games?
I like how they can help you get immersed into the gameplay and how they can help you take your mind off things. I also like the fact that they can kind of show you a different side, like of kind of virtual side, which you don't get to see in your day-to-day life.
Mm.
James, what about you?
Uh, Basically exactly the same as you. Yeah, just something to be immersed in.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
James? Not James, Ryan, sorry.
Yeah, just to immerse yourself and get lost and just have fun in somewhere else that isn't the real world.
What about you, Brandon?
I mean, I like video games because it's just a way of detaching from the real world and like being able to forget about everything else and being able to focus on just that one thing. So, you know, for example, if you play Skyrim, you know, nothing else matters but that game.
Right.
And I enjoy that in something like Skyrim, you can always like level up. There's always like something to do, and exploration side of it. That's what I really like about video games.
No, fair enough. So what's everyone's favourite genres? James, what's your favourite genre?
FPS game.
FPS?
Mhm.
Ryan, what's yours?
Yeah, dungeon crawlers or
Dungeon crawler.
open world kind of things.
Brandon?
RPG games.
RPG games? Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
Mine's also FPS games, but I also tend to play a lot of open worlds like Skyrim.
Cool.
Okay.
Trying to do another.
Yep.
Oh, what are we on?
Third one.
Third one. How often do you play games?
I play games for at least probably 3 to 4 hours a day.
Yeah,
Probably.
I play literally whenever I have free time because I've got nothing better to do.
Yeah,
That's the truth.
Yeah, I'm probably about 3, 4, 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
I'd say like it depends, but if I could give an average, probably like 3 or 4 hours. But it kind of like depends. So
Yeah.
What makes a game feel rewarding to you?
Rewarding would be like new content. So leveling up can give you different harder quests to go on in games, or it can open up new levels that you can go into. It kind of just that sense of opening up new, like I said, new content that you can go into. You can explore like new items as well that you can use, things like that.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, like, what makes a game rewarding to me is the fact that, like, something like Skyrim or Dark Souls, there's a progression element to it. So, like, leveling up your character, being able to upgrade your character in certain, like, your character's certain, like, attributes and stuff. So, like, you know, whether it be, you know, being able to swing your weapon harder or something like that, you know.
See, for me, I feel like it's more I don't know, like the experience of actually like being in like a game world kind of thing. Because obviously I'm a big fan of like dungeon crawlers or like open world games, and a lot of
Right.
them require like previous like either knowledge of the genre or something like that, just so you can dive in and
Just
get
straight
lost,
in.
yeah.
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 No, that's the thing I like about dungeon crawlers is that you can, if you have a bit of knowledge about it, you can just dive in, go into this
Yeah.
whole new world that you wouldn't experience in any other games.
Because obviously take a first person shooter, that's obviously just run around, shoot everything you see move.
In a
But then,
world, yeah.
Yeah, dungeon crawlers is just like,
It's like a bunch of-
everything could be a puzzle. Just
Yeah.
look out for it.
It could
See,
be a
I get-
puzzle.
I
It could be a
get-
fantasy world. Like with, I guess, I don't know if it counts as one, but Stardew Valley in a sense, it's like a world where the slimes attack you, things
Yeah.
like that. You wouldn't really see that in normal life, would you?
No, well, obviously not.
So, yeah, obviously not. But like, it's just being able to dive into these fantasy worlds and do stuff that you wouldn't be able to do anywhere
Yeah.
else.
Yeah, I feel a sense of accomplishment in FPS games because it feels like you're outplaying each player you play against. So, like, I just feel like I'm better than them, if you know what I mean.
That'd be in multiplayer
Yeah,
anyway.
multiplayer
Because
sort of
FPS
thing.
games can also be single player games as
And
well.
that, yeah.
Alright, so why do you play games?
I play games just to try and take my mind off of things really because I tend to be quite an overthinker. So being able to sit there, play games, and just have a good time, it just helps a lot.
I
Yeah,
think it's
so-
about being able to like express yourself in ways that you wouldn't be able to in real life. You know, if you play like a fantasy game, obviously it's a completely different world that you're immersed in. So being able to express yourself in that way, and you know, even like a game like Minecraft where you can build and stuff, it allows you. It's like an extension of you in that game, like being able to do stuff that you wouldn't be able to do in real life.
Yeah, I feel the same, to be honest.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, it's the same.
Okay. What do you like the most about your specific genres? So
Just the getting lost part of it, honestly, and the exploration.
So I like RPGs for like kind of different reasons, but like obviously there's like dialogue. I love like the lore surrounding like an RPG game. So even something like a Western RPG like Dark Souls, you know, there's lore behind it. There's a story. There's a backstory. There are stories behind the characters, and I enjoy that and I appreciate it because, you know, you can sink your teeth into it for a very long time, and it takes you away from, you know, real life. You can focus on something that you know is important, you know, to you, you know, in that game, and that's finding out about the characters. And even though it's a fantasy, it's fun to sink your teeth into that.
FPS games, I like the different aspects you can have in each one. So, like for example, CS:GO is more tactical, and then we can also have like run and gun shooters where you just run around killing as many people as you can in in Call of Duty and stuff like that. That's what really I like about the FPS genre, just different styles.
Fair enough. I personally like the FPS genre the most because the thing about me when I was younger is I was into a lot of military stuff when I was younger, so it kind of gives you that sort of experience. Not exactly, not properly,
Yeah,
but
you
gives
have like past knowledge in it.
Yeah,
Like,
you have like past knowledge, and it's just cool to see how it plays out. And like James mentioned, it's not just a game where you run around and shoot people. There's tactical sides of it which I really like as well, which CS:GO and Valorant explore. There can also be kind of a strategy. I guess strategy comes under tactical as well, but like the strategy that you can come up with in certain games like CS and Valorant is really, really impressive to me because you wouldn't think of them type of strategies in other situations, like in your day-to-day life or in any other FPS games where you just run around and shoot. You wouldn't consider that even being an option.
yeah, I feel like for all games, there's always just an escape, which is quite funny.
Yeah. Okay.
I think Carl wants us back now.
We'll be back soon. Okay. What attracts you to play certain games more often? So like you said with Skyrim.
So yeah, like
progression?
I think what makes me come back to a game is that it gives me a feeling of personal fulfillment. So even though I haven't accomplished something in real life, you know, I feel like I've accomplished something, you know, in a game. You know, in a lot of games there are objectives that you have to complete and certain obstacles that you have to overcome, and I think being able to do that in a safe way, you know, especially something like Skyrim when there's combat, Dark Souls, you know, there are other games as well. It's just a safe way to experience that, and a lot of people, including myself, come back to, you know, certain games because it get that experience. You know, there's no other. You know, games give you an experience that you wouldn't be able to experience, you know, in real life. You know, for example.
I think for me it comes down to the fact that the gameplay is just entertain itself. So like the mechanics are a big part for me. So if it's got entertaining mechanics that I can mess around with, have fun with, it tend to draw me back quite often. And story, I am a big fan of story. So with like Skyrim or with a lot of the Call of Duty games, I like the single player version the most because it intrigues me, the storyline that they follow. And that I also think that what brings me back to games as well, if I can remember it, I just had it in my head. I read on with the first idea, so I'm trying to think again. But I think it was it was something to do with mechanics, I believe, with also the fact that I'm trying to remember, struggling, because I was going to start off with it and I went on to the other. It was something to do. I remember it when you were speaking. I just need to remember what you said. What attracts me back now? To be honest, stories. I remember now. It was also just being able to interact with people in certain games, like Minecraft and games with voice chats. You do tend to meet some pretty chill, nice people on there who you can interact with. You can get together and play with more often, and it's just nice being able to interact with people who are kind of similar to you as well, and could be in the same situation or same stance as you when it comes to games.
Yeah, see, I prefer like being with friends instead of like randoms. So
Oh yeah, 100%.
well, obviously, I'm sure
Yeah.
everyone would, but like things as well with like games that draw me back is just like, yeah, for one, the stories can be like great,
Yeah.
and also I'm really like, I'm a fan of like exaggerated, like almost like like, take for example, the Spider-Man game.
Mhm.
It's like it's just a normal guy, but he's really exaggerated.
Yeah.
That could have been amplified by obviously like films and TV and
Yeah.
other things like that. But it's just like stuff like that really, like, I get really fascinated by.
Right.
It's really strange because obviously FPS games are just like, they're very realistic,
Right.
and those kind of games, yeah, I'll play them, but it's just like, I want something
You want
a
something
bit
that-
more.
Yeah, you want something a bit more that's kind of drags you out of the realism,
like
the realistic.
realism,
Because we get enough of realism in our day-to-day lives, so
Yeah.
just something to drag you out into like a fantasy or something you're not used to.
Yeah.
I agree with what you said earlier. I like to come back for like the different communities of games.
Mm.
So for stuff like CS:GO, there's always a community of people that want to improve their skills, or with, Call of Duty players, the people that just want to level up as fast as they possibly can.
Right.
Lots of different people you can meet, and I should
Yeah.
like that.
Fair enough.
So how have video games shaped you as an individual?
Wow, that is the question, because I've been playing games probably since I was about 3. So
Yeah, same.
Same,
I've always
pretty
been
much.
playing games. So I think the defining moment was when I was playing Breath of the Wild for the first time, which is what made me want to look into how it was made, because obviously big massive games
Yeah.
like that, it's just like, how does that start?
How does it?
Like, how does it
yeah.
like progress?
How does it progress to that point? How does it reach that kind of
Yeah.
standard that it gets to? That's understandable. I think for me, it's kind of shaped. It shaped me in a few ways because I feel like it's made me a lot more resilient. So when because obviously certain games have toxic communities, and such. I feel like just being exposed to that kind of shape has made me more of like a realist and resilient and kind of hardened person, where not much of that really affects me, and I can actually take on a fair bit of criticism better without it actually affecting me, which I might not have been able to do without games.
I probably said exactly the same. Yeah.
I mean, video games have shaped like what I want to do. So I want to learn how to design levels, and that's because from a young age, I used to play a game on the Xbox called Super Monkey Ball. Now that game has some very, very difficult levels,
Hmm.
but for some reason I kept coming back to it because it was so difficult. It provided you a challenge, and it was a game. It is a game for anyone, but it is very, very competitive. But what I like about that game is the levels, like how they're sculpted and how they're designed in such elaborate ways. Like there was a level I remember playing called Exam C, and it was like a ramp going up, a ramp going down, and then you'd have to. It was so difficult, but because of that challenge, and because of the design of the levels, it's ultimately shaped what I want to do. If I want to like later on do games design as a career path, I definitely want to be like a level designer or work with the kind of like game logic side of things, like programming.
Right, yeah, it's me to ask the question now. Okay, what's your favourite aspect of video games in general? It's like, when you look for a video game, what is the aspect you're looking for that's going to
like,
draw
what's the
you?
selling point?
Yeah,
kind of
what's the
thing?
selling point? What's going to get you to buy that game or get you to look into that game?
Probably just, as I said, like exaggerated movements and other things like that. And obviously, if it's got open world slapped on it, I'll 100% probably play it. But dungeon crawlers and just things that have good fighting mechanics and just anything like that is just so. It's fascinating, really, because it's obviously it's beating like realism, because
Right.
obviously nothing like that ever happens. But it's so weird how like things like that can be achieved. That's what I think.
To dive more into what you said, so what is considered good fighting mechanics for you?
Just something that like is a bit more flashy than usual. So that obviously you could take like a fist fight that could be exciting or something, but like something like that, I'd feel it can only be like made fun in the game if I was playing like against a friend or something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas something like the Spider-Man game, he's flying
Yeah.
around doing all the kicks and stuff. It's just
Yeah.
like that's
He's webbing
exciting.
people.
Yeah.
It's just-
that's what I would have said, yeah.
I mean, I like the kind of interaction and freedom. You know, that's what makes me, you know, want to pick up a game. So, like, when it comes to interaction, it's like being able to, you know, whether it be like the actual mechanics of, you know, the player, what it can do, and the freedom to be able to use those mechanics in very interesting and fascinating ways. You know, that's what I always enjoy when someone almost like when they speed run a game, for argument's sake, like Super Monkey Ball. They don't break the game, but they exploit the gameplay mechanics in such a way where they complete the level in a completely different way, but elaborate in such a
Elaborate.
brilliant way.
Yeah.
Such an elaborate way, and I just think, you know, because there's more than one possibility of completing a level. I just think it makes you want to go back to that game.
And then James.
So in like CS:GO,
Yeah.
no, mine's gone blank. Never mind. It's actually just gone blank.
I'll go on with mine.
Yeah.
I'll go on with mine, and we'll go back to you. My favorite aspect of games is again, this has to be the writing. A really good story draws me in because it's nice to delve into that world and learn more about it and learn more about the characters, what's led them to that point, what the situation is, and why that's the situation, and just what past incidents, when it delves into the character's background, has led to this point.
Yeah, see, I can agree with that because obviously I'm a big fan of like Zelda games, as you probably know. But like because that like lore stuff has got so like confusing moments in it. Obviously, you can over 35 years you're gonna have like most of the story explained, but then there was like games that are released after which are set before, so it's just like one big and massive story, which is just it's fun to
look
explore
into,
it as it goes on, because sometimes things from the past will be explored or things going forward will be explored, so it's great.
And sometimes you learn more of what's happened in the future before, because that's the with the Zelda games you might play a more recent one and missed the past one.
Yeah.
So you've learned what's happened in the future, and it intrigues you as to what's happened before that. So you go back and you play the previous ones.
So what I was going to say was I want to come back to a game with like a lot of polish and juice. So for example with CS:GO, you know how you can switch your weapon from a pistol to an AR or something. The other players in the game can hear that, which is really good for like tactical movement and strategies and stuff like that. That's the kind of polish I like in other games.
Right. Okay. Okay. So what got you into games in the first place?
Probably just seeing my mum play it, like because the first game I ever played was probably like Super Mario Bros on the DS, and literally I remember like, you know, like those moments where your parents put down like a console or something and you pick it up, and that was like the very start, I guess. And over time, obviously, as they got games, I played games, and then obviously I grew up and then got my own games, which they probably won't ever touch, but it's stuff like that. It's just, yeah.
I mean, I've been into games for like since a very young age, so kind of my history of video games is what got me into them. Well, I started playing games at about 5 years of age, which is astonishing, but I think it was just you know, to justify it, it was just to pass the time when I first, you know, was introduced to video games. But as time's passed by, like, I've got into like different games. I've kind of that passion has grown, but I also have like a passion in technology and IT, and I think because of that, when I play a video game, you know, it fascinates me. You know, it excites me because I can just see how much work has gone into that game, and I also, I appreciate, you know, the work that's gone into it. And really, I used to look up to my older brother, as it happens. He used to be a massive gamer, and he got me into Dark Souls, and he used to like come round. We used to like just play like games on the Xbox, and we used to just like chill out and stuff. And we used to be so like really competitive as well. And just having that, I think what else got me into playing games is the fact that it helps like, it can like obviously you can play with friends and stuff. So it's not just your own experience. You can share the experience with another person.
Mm.
Whilst I was growing up, my grandparents had a PlayStation 2, and I used to really like playing the Sonic Mega Collection, all the classics like Sonic 1, 2 and 3. And eventually I moved on to using their personal computer for like online flash games such as like Run or Club Penguin.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually that moved on to playing on my father's PlayStation 3 on stuff like Sonic 06 or some of the really early Call of Duties, in which then going into school I used to play on those computers stuff like, have you heard of Krunker?
No, I haven't actually.
It's a first person game that you can play on computers on the web browser,
Mm-hmm.
and that really sparked something in me to play FPS games, because somehow I went from not being good at them all, but during the time of playing those games at school I somehow got better, and I wanted to do that at home. And then eventually I was given a really decent laptop by my grandparents, and that just really led me forward to just playing games more often.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
For me, what got me into games is games have been in my life since a really young age. I'd say probably around 4 or 5, similar to Brandon. I've seen games pretty much all my life. I've seen people play them. I've played them myself, and I feel like just being able to see the experience that you could have, watching others have fun playing it, really made me want to play it. It kind of inspired me to play it and to try them out myself. And that's when I started to play games. When I started to try out games like Just Cause 2, the early Call of Duty games, Halo games. I started to try them out, and I started to really enjoy them. And it also helped me just take my mind off of a lot of things, as I mentioned earlier. So it all started to pile up as good reasons as to why I should play games, because it interested me a lot. It helped me with my overthinking. It just stuff like that. It looked like a really good reason to. So I started to play games more often. And I started to take a real interest into the mechanics. I started to take interest into stories after that, and it's kind of led me into wanting to be a games developer. So I can kind of learn more about their mechanics. I can mess around with the mechanics, make them in a unique way that's unique to my game specifically, and that others can try and enjoy as well.
Yeah, see, also with when I was getting into games, it was always because my mum had grown up with Nintendo games, so she kind of knew the ones which would be good enough for me. So obviously classics like Mario 64, Ocarina of Time, all them ones which were years ago, obviously, because when I was little it was like 2010. But like those games mixed with like new ones, because at the time something like Mario Galaxy was out at the same time as 64. They feel exactly the same, but they're two different points in time, which is why I really like the history of certain games, and like definitely like Nintendo as a company, because they've been going for years, and you think, how on earth has that happened?
Yeah, they've really made they've made a name for themselves, and they've kept it going. They've find new innovative ways to change up the style of games they're making, and to make it still appeal to the current audience.
And to think they're still probably, well, they are one of the biggest game companies in the world, and also they're outselling like loads of people already as well.
Alright, I think that's everything.
Sick.